Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome to my live stream. I have been making some steady progress on my ORM. Yeah, so basically, if you don't know what an ORM is, because I'm assuming that everybody who is watching the stream knows what an ORM is, but then basically an ORM is some sort of like a wrapper around either SQL or depending on the database that you are using, it's the ORM sits on top of this language or that query that you use to fetch data from the database or do things like migration, and then the ORM allows you to do those kind of things very flexibly and in languages that are strictly typed and those kind of things where you want type safety, where you don't really want to be writing like raw SQL and doing those kind of things. That's where an ORM comes in really handy. Yeah, so I a couple of weeks ago I had a project that I needed to do, and then I ended up working with Drizzle. So if you don't know Drizzle, Drizzle is an ORM that's I think it's recent. It's recent and it's a TypeScript ORM, which basically allows you to do everything that I just described. You can do migrations, you can do like typed access of data, so you are not going to be dealing with like raw strings here and there. It gives you everything in a typed form. Yeah, and then I kind of like liked the way they approach things. It was similar to the way I was thinking about building an ORM. Yeah, and then more importantly, I think the way they expose the API, I mean the maybe I'll call it like the DSL, like the way you express yourself using the ORM if you wanted to fetch data from the database. I really liked the way they presented things. Yeah, so I set out to model my ORM sort of after Drizzle because yeah, I just liked the the structure that they had. So basically what you do is you describe the schema for this data that you want to store in the database, and then Drizzle does everything for you based off the types that you provided. So this is like an example query that's we are trying to fetch users from the database, and you can see this with here, meaning there is a relation between users and posts, which Drizzle automatically makes that available to you in a typed way. And if we look at the schema for this, you can see that you have to like define this. We have some table in our database called users, and then we have the ID, which is the primary key, and then we have the name, which is not nullable, and then we can define some relations for user, and then we have the posts table, which has an ID, and then it has some other properties. So basically we are just defining the schema for the data that we want to store in the database, like the tables and all of that stuff. Yeah, so I mean I set out to build this for that, and the way I approached it is that's a strictly typed language. So I could, if I could have a way to pull all this type information either at runtime or during the compilation phase, then I could be able to do those kind of things that Drizzle is able to do, because I need to know what properties are available on a class, what methods are available if I needed to do all those kind of things. So my initial approach, which was just like a query builder where you just put get me users where, then you put the column you're looking for, then you put the where operation that you are, maybe it's equal to, then you put the value there. That was what I had, but then you lose type safety when you're doing that, because instead of passing an integer for the, let's say, user ID, you could pass a string, and since we don't have any like blueprints which is going to like conform us to anything, like those are issues that you'll be catching at runtime. So I had to rework my approach to the entire ORM thing, and that was me having to use Dart analyzer. So if you know analyzer is this sort of tool that like allows you to probe on the classes or anything, basically any piece of that code, and you can pull out any information that you need. So with analyzer, I can be able to probe or pull out every information about this class or basically anything, and then I can use that piece of information about this that code to generate other helpful code that we can use to access data from the database and create our migration sort of. So as you can, if you've been watching my stream, this is already familiar, like you're already familiar with this. But then for the sake of people who might be watching me just today, so you define a class article which extends entity article, and basically this class is representing a table in a database. And then we have this annotation table here which specifies the name of the table in the database. And then we have some bunch of converters here which basically converts between that primitives to types that can be easily stored in your database. Then we have the ID field on the article, which has been annotated with the primary key, which just simply means that this is going to be our primary key, which is an integer. And then we have title, description, and then some other properties. And then we have a reference defined here, which is going to create a primary key that is referencing user. Then we have some other created at, then we have a primary constructor here. Then we have the relations, which I mentioned that we were going to be talking about in the stream today. Yeah, then we have some serialization code for JSON stuff. So basically, if we take a look at the code that is generated for this, hopefully everything fits on my screen. Yeah, so we get a query that if we were to do any kind of fetching from the database, this is the sort of like the entry point of the class that we're going to be calling, which is article query, which basically is just a helper property for db.query article. So instead of just writing this everywhere, you can just basically type article query. So if it's a user class, you're going to have a user query. Then the schema is basically the sort of like the schema that we're going to be using for our migrations. Since we have all the type information, we should be able to generate a migration schema that can allow us to store whatever type of data this class holds in the database. So that's basically what we call the article schema. Then we have the DB entity, which is sort of like a pseudo reflection for all the data that we pulled out from the class. So you have a class, and then we're going to create a DB entity which takes the article. Yeah, then we need to pass the name of the table, which is articles, which is basically pulled from this annotation that we added here. So basically, this is just like information about the class entity that you defined, and then some other properties that we will need later on in the life cycle of the application. And then just basically pseudo reflection stuff. And then we have some typed data access defined for us here. Let's say we wanted to order something by on article. We have this typed things we can type class we can call. Let's say we wanted to order by title, description, image URL, and some other things. And let's say we wanted to find articles in a typed way instead of having to put all these strings like hard code things where you could miss out something, and then you would have to debug this at runtime. This whole piece of code is generated for you, so you don't have to write all these kind of things. So I have an extension function on query article, which basically exposes find by ID, find by title, description. So based off the fields that we were able to read off the entity class, we can be able to generate this pieces of typed data access functions. And then for, let's say we wanted to do where things, we have all this. So that's just basically me explaining the magic, how everything works. And the focus of today's stream is basically for us to work on entity relations. So basically what I mean by that is if you are familiar with frameworks like Rails, or you're familiar with, let's say, Laravel, or let's say something like Node.js type ORM. All these things have like ORMs where you see things like belongs to, you see has many true, has I think, is it one? I can't even remember. Like, I feel so dumb right now. But then that's basically what we want to implement. We want to implement the relationships, like establishing relationships between article entities. So as you can see, I have an example here where I have this belongs to, which basically is saying that, an article belongs to a user. And then when we go to the user entity, we have, user has many article. So this is how we are expressing that kind of relationship to the using the ORM. And for us to make these things work, we need, foreign keys or like references between these two entities so that we have something linking them together. So when you go to the article, you see that I have a reference defined here, which is basically an annotation on the owner ID, which is an integer. And then it makes reference to the user, which basically is going to be the primary key on user. So it means any value that's put here corresponds to a user in user's table. So if I needed to, do belongs to, currently the way I implemented that, it's basically, hopefully I'm able to explain this in a way that makes sense. But then, yeah, like I mentioned, we have all the type information that we need. So if I do something like query dot related model, so this is a bunch of generic stuff that we pass, the parents and then the related model. And then when we get this, we construct a read query, and then, same approach, we do read query dot find one. And then, so yeah, you need to pass the foreign key and then the value here. Let me see. It belongs to, belongs to user. Okay. So when you call belongs to, this is where the magic happens. So we need to get the parent field name, which you can either provide the foreign key. So when you do this, you have the option to provide, let's say, maybe this wasn't actually owner ID. Maybe we had something like string user ID. And then I wanted to reference this instead. Then I would have to put the user ID here. Yeah, but then if you don't put anything here, it means it's just going to search the properties here and then find the one that is referencing, this type that you put here. So it looks like I have some error on my code. Yeah, okay. So basically we are just trying to get the primary key of the entity that you are like referring to, which in this case is user. So it's either you pass that or, hold up, this is related model. Okay, we get the foreign key here and then we get the primary key. Okay, we get the primary key, which in this case is going to be ID. And then I try to get the reference field on the current entity that we are looking at, which is in this case is going to be, we get a reference field and then we try to use the mirror system to get the value of that, which is going to give us the ID of the, basically this is the value that we are looking for. We are looking for the value of this. Yeah, so it's sort of like we have an article, and then we are trying to find the owner of this article. So if we have an instance of article, we would obviously have an article.owner ID, like we would have this variable. So, but then how do we pull this information at runtime? That's where the pseudo mirror thing comes in. So we get the type mirror and then we pass the instance, which is basically this, because if you call this belongs to in the context of article, this is just going to give you the article context. So then we get the value of the owner ID, then we pass all that information to belongs to, which constructs the query and then gives us the user that we want. That was a long explanation, but hopefully it's made sense. Yeah. So basically what I want to do on this stream is I probably need examples for demonstrating how this thing actually works. So I load out that and then I go to void main and then the usual stuff db.init. I need my database configuration. orm.config. So the configuration basically just specifies the databases that we can talk to. The ORM allows us to talk to multiple databases. So we can define a default database here, and then we can define the connections, and we have SQLite and we have MySQL. And in this case, I'm using SQLite because, debug mode is going to be true. So test DB, which is SQLite. Then the next thing, I have to make the query aware of the types that we have. This is one piece that I need to find a way to, abstract, because in a project where you have more than like a lot of entities, it's going to be a lot of work to write this kind of code where you are making the query build out the ORM know about the types that you have. So I have something like article, then I have article type data. So all of this is generated for you, which basically like is the type information about that class. And it's to generate that code, you just have to run the Dart run build this command, and it will generate all of that for you. I mean, once you annotate the classes. So once we do this, what I want to do is I want to create a new user. Wait, and then like I mentioned, we have the user query. Let me mark this as a sync, and then I want to do create, and I'm going to do new test user 1, and then the email I'm going to do hello@gmail.com, and then the password is going to be some random string. Okay, so hopefully this should create a new user in the database. To JSON. Okay. Before that, I think I'll just delete this data, the SQLite, the existing one we have, and then I would run migrations. Yeah, that should run migrations. Okay, so we create user stable, we create article stable, amazing. Okay, so then I can now run that being hello.dat. I should have a user in the database. Oh, what happened? What happened? For some reason, it's using my SQL. Oh, I have to run this with enable asserts. Assertions. That still didn't work. Oh, I think I need to do that run enable asserts. Not too sure. Okay, asserts and then being hello.dat. Amazing, it worked. So, let me go just modify this configuration to just use, test DB, so I don't have to be passing enable assets every time. Okay, so testDB is going to be our default database. So I have a user in the database now. I can remove this piece of code and do, any user equal to await, and then I want to do user query.find one. Find one. I'm going to do any user to JSON, and then I'm going to do, I don't need my assertions again. Okay, so we have one user in the database. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to create an article sort of like this. I want to do something like final new article await article query.create, and then I have to provide a title. It has some required. So new article. description. Here is my new article. See me. And then I have to pass, I think image URL is nullable. So let me provide owner ID. So you see, we have a typed ORM. So if I don't provide it, you can see that this is having an error. It means this piece of code won't compile. Yeah, and that's because of the code that we generated. So the owner ID, I'm going to pass any user.id here. So hopefully this should create an article in the database for us. So I'm going to have new article.toJSON. Yeah. Okay, when I run this, amazing stuff. So as you can see, we have a user in the database and we've created an article, and then, you know, we pass this owner ID. Yeah. But then, I mean, this is nice. This is a good way to do things. But then I was just thinking, you know, with the relations that we have, we should be able to do something like any user dot articles. Just to recap, we have this has many here, has many articles. So user has many articles. Yeah, but how does this work? Let me see. So we get the reference model, which is the article, because article will be passed here. And then when we get that, we try to get the reference field, which in this case is going to be owner ID. Then we're going to use that owner ID. So if you pass the foreign key here, we're going to use that, or we're going to use the reference field that we found. That makes sense. Then we pass all that information to has many, and then we construct a query, simple query, which is basically checking for articles where that foreign key, which the owner ID, you know, equal. Yeah, this should be value. Exactly. So this is a value, which we use the pseudo mirror thing, which I was talking about, to get the value from that instance. You can see, yeah, this is just a bunch of generic stuff happening here. Hopefully it makes sense. Yeah, so I want to do articles, and then you can see that, before that, I think let's do something where we want to get articles for this user. So user articles will be equal to any user dot articles dot get. You see that? So if I have a user and then I have this relation defined on it, I should be able to call dot get, and then I can get the list of articles that user actually created in the database. So let me do print user articles dot yeah, let's just print this. So we should hopefully see just a list of just one single item in the list. Exactly, we have an instance of article. So I'm going to do article.first.toJSON, and hopefully we should see the JSON for that. Amazing stuff. So similarly to how we can get articles like this, I want us to be able to delete and create. So I want to be able to do articles dot maybe create or maybe insert. I don't know which one to do, but I think I would like something like create. And no, it's more like we can do insert, and then we can do dot insert many. You see, I'm not really sure. I'm not too sure, but I think I implemented delete because we have the query. So we just need to call delete on the query, and that will delete the articles that we have. So I want to be able to create, you know, referenced entities directly on the relation. Like if I say that a user has many articles, I should be able to use that relation to create, like I should be able to use that relation to create articles that will automatically be assigned to that user. And if I go to an article, I should be able to, if an article belongs to a user, I should be able to change the user, like update the user or something. But I think for a start, I can just start with the being able to, articles.create, like something like this. And as you can see, that method doesn't exist because we would have to generate this. And the reason we have to generate this is because for every article that has a relation, like the input is going to be different. So if we use code gen, we have all that information before, like in the runtime of the code generator, so we can generate that function, which would make this error go away. So I'm going into the code that does the generation that enables all of that to work. And just looking off of this, I need to generate an extension on, this relationship. So I have a has many here. Okay, let me prototype something, before I get into this whole code gen drama. Let me do something like extension on has many. For some reason, this is going to be a bit tricky because of the generics we pass here. Can you add generics on an extension? Let's say has many extension, and then I want to do parent extends entity, and entity has to take parent, and then I have to do related model, which should also extend entity, and then we should give it related model. Can I do something like this? Oh, there's no error, so I'm guessing it would work. And I can pass this like this. So I can pass the parent and I can pass the related model. The code has gone out of the screen. Related model. Oh, come on. Yes. So I think that worked. That works fine. So what we want to generate is we want to generate a future void. Do we want a void? When we create a related model, we should return an instance of what was created. So what will be created in this case is if I say user has many articles and I'm on that relation and I call create, then I expect to get an article. So we are going to return the related model here, which would be create. You see that? So we're going to generate, based off the code generation, we're going to put some input parameters here, which let's say I need, in order for me to create an article, I need the name. So that will be required string name, and then let's say required string, let's say, no. And remember, we are just prototyping what we would actually put into the code gen. So this is this description. And then inside here, I think we have an access to the query. Do we? Do we? Okay, has many should, exactly. We have access to read query, but it's private. So we'd have to make this public. It's going to be renamed outside. For real? Oh, I'm working outside of the actual piece of code. That's the beauty of that. If you're looking at any piece of code and you don't understand what is happening internally, you can just do your control click and then you go into the source and you can add, like, you can make changes there, and then, or like you can just read the code. Like, that doesn't hide anything. any library that you're using, you can basically go into the source and read. So I think that's one of the niceties of that. So yeah. So I was saying that we need to make this public so that we can use it. So read query, exactly. So I'm just putting like a dollar sign in front of it so that, you know, if you ever call this outside the scope of this, you know that like this is something that shouldn't be used directly, but unless you know exactly what you're doing, then you can call that. Yeah. So I can do read query dot. I think read query should have insert. It doesn't. Means we'll have to implement an insert. But do we even need a read query for this? Because this read query is given as article.where. This isn't what we need. We need to construct a new query. So it means we can revert this back to being private. We don't actually need it in our case. And then I'm going to do dot table. And then I'm going to pass a related model, since that's what we want to create. And then I think this has an insert. And like I mentioned, if you see any function like this in the ORM, it means it's something that you shouldn't have to use as an end user directly unless you strictly know what you're doing. So when I call insert, it's expecting a map of a symbol and then some dynamic data, you see? And this is exactly why you shouldn't use this unless you know exactly what you're doing. The ORM internally has this structure, and based off how the API is layered, by the time the data gets here, like we know the actual data that is going to fit into the database. So if you call this directly, you are skipping all that, you know, all those checks and all those types that are supposed to, you know, guide you, and you're going straight like into the query executor. This is where everything is executed. So if you call this directly, means you're passing the data straight down, and, you know, things could blow up. So it's just safe that you stay within the constraints of the ORM and do things like the way they advise you to do things. You know, I mean, this isn't published yet, but then hopefully that would be the case. Like if you ever call these functions, you'd have to know exactly what you're doing. So it will be something like the way the ORM works, since we are mapping the class fields directly to the database columns, and, you know, you can override this with the annotation, like if the Dart field name is, let's say, ID, it means in the database it's going to be ID unless you choose to rename this thing to something else. So I require the symbol, so that's going to be something like title, and then the value. You see that? So it's more like symbol against the value. And then with the help of the type converters, if the ORM ever receives something that we can store directly in the database, then we will use those type converters, like converters, to convert the Dart primitives into, like it could be Dart primitives, or it could be like actual classes, you know, custom classes. We need to convert those things into like database compatible types. So I could do something like a description, and then I could have description here. So basically our code gen would look something like this. And by the way, like I mentioned, if you do an insert, we are supposed to return an instance. So we can just make this lambda function, and then we can do this. So assuming title and description was only what we needed to create an article, this would be what our code gen would look like. So based off this, I'm going to translate this logic into our code gen, and it should work for every scenario. I'm sounding pretty ambitious here, but then let's see how this goes. Let me see. Okay, we are still very much live, you know. Okay, so like I mentioned, we are going to translate this piece of code into our code generator so that it can look at actual class definitions and then generate this for us. But then this was only the prototyping that we did. Okay, so I am going to move this to the right. Hopefully you won't be able to see all of that. And then I'll go into my code gen. So what we are going to do here is I'm going to have a bunch of other things here which we generate to make things easy. And okay, I'll put it after this one. Before that, I need to add a comment. Generate extension for as many creations. It doesn't really make sense right now, but we can improve that later. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to generate. First off, I need to read methods on a class. Let me close this. Yeah, so basically, before I can proceed and do anything, what we need to do is if we have this class or this piece of code, I mean, this is a class, I am going to look for, methods that return belongs to. We have a bunch of methods, like this is a method, and I'm going to search for methods that belong to, like, that return this type. Do you get? I mean, then if we're able to get this, then we can pull out these types that were passed to it. Yeah, so it would basically be the same for, every other type of relation that we will ever define. Yeah. So in this case, I'm going to look for as many. Since that's what we prototyped here, this is how we'll go about it. So let's figure that first bit out. Okay. So I'm going to be making like some trial code in the generator, and then I run it here in the actual code to see, what we're actually dealing with. So in the top here, so basically when you write that pieces of code and then we want to perform an analysis on it, the form in which that class is translated to that gives you all those information is called the class element. So on the class element, I can probe all those methods and fields that I want. So I'm going to do something like class elements dot, then this is where you search, because I just wished this thing had like some sort of like public facing documentation, but a lot of the things that I actually got to working, like you just have to go into the code and then figure out what options are there and make it work. So I guess we're going to do the same today. So let me see. Okay, we have mixins here and we have methods. Okay, I'm going to go for methods. Before that, let me print, what methods do we have on the class first? Let me just map this to e.name. Okay, just give me the name. And then I'm going here. Hold up. Sometimes when I make changes to my code in different places, I need to sort of run that pub get. Then I do that pub get here. Then I need to run my generator command. And remember, it is going to print log the name of the method that it finds on any class that matches our criteria, which is, tables. Okay, so we found some methods which, to JSON. Funny enough, we didn't find this, so I'm guessing it's not a method. It's a field. It's a getter. But it could have been a method, and the method is not too sure, but it says otherwise. So I guess we're going to try fields. and then we map the name, same thing, and then I do this, and then we wait. Have some patience, folks. Okay, so what do we have here? Oh, I think I found it. So here you can see that we have ID, name, email, password, created as, updated as, and then we have articles here. This is the corporate we are looking for. And when you go into article, we have owner. You can see the owner. So it means it's a field and it's a getter field. So let's see. There has to be something differentiating it from these other fields, because these are get fields, These are getters. So let's see. Okay, we have dot getter. Could that be what we're looking for? Okay, we have getter, we have set, but let me see what else I can find here. Okay. Let's see. Getter is the only thing that's making sense there. Hopefully for the other fields that I want to get is, it would be now. I don't know. Oh god, things are getting complicated. This is interesting. So it means for those other fields, what I'm looking for is how to differentiate this from things like this, because all of them are classified under fields. So how do I tell if this is an actual getter field and these are like just normal fields that are existing on this class? Oh god. Could it be having something extra here? Let's see what synthetic means. So it's returning true if this element is synthetic. A synthetic element is an element that is not represented in the source code explicitly, but is implied by the source code, such as a default constructor for a class that does not explicitly. Okay. So if I have a class that doesn't define any constructor, but then it's going to have a default constructor, and that's classified as it is synthetic. Yeah, because we didn't express it explicitly, base of the code, we knew that there's a default constructor, so it's synthetic. So I'm guessing that the getter is going to be synthetic, because these one where is that? These ones don't have get, but for some reason it's telling us that the actual getters and I don't know, they are getters. So it means these ones are going to be synthetic and this isn't synthetic. I don't even know if I'm making sense, but I'm just guessing things here. So I guess we just have to experiment and see what actually we should be doing. Oh god. Funny enough, it's always like this when I'm dealing with analyzer or code gen stuff, like experimentation, but okay, I'm seeing some things here. Our assumption could be true, because you can see I'm having true. Let's just improve this log and then see what exactly is happening. I want to print the name and then I want to do synthetic. Okay. Okay, hopefully we're able to get this code gen piece out because time is running quickly. Okay. We were right. Absolutely right. So these other fields are synthetic because it's not directly implied in the source, like defined in the source code, but then based off we probing, like analyzing the code, we can imply that these are actual getters, you know. But then for these ones, it's explicit, so it's not synthetic, so it's false. That's just the first step. So we're going to look for properties that are not synthetic. That's the first step. So we're going to do fields. Fields dot where. Are those going to have like types? We could do types. You know, we could use like the type because I'm not sure those would have the same type, but they were all classified under field. It could be that we have different implementations of field. I'm going to do where it's not e dot syn is synthetic. Oh come on, synthetic. E dot is synthetic. Okay, and then we want to map this to e dot type. Is no, let's see runtime type. I just want to be sure of the types, and I'll be back shortly. Yeah, that was a short commercial break. Okay. So, funny enough, they are all field elements implementation. So there's not really much we can do with type information, like the class type information. So, wait. Fields where e dot getter dot is synthetic. Equals false. Okay, hopefully they should give me just owner and then the articles. Okay, looks like we are making steady progress. So we're able to get just belongs to and has many. And at this time, we're only focusing on has many. So what I want to do now is, okay, then I guess, okay, so I'm coming. Get the fields equal to okay, so we will need just some moments. I need to do there is a type checker. There is a type checker that basically does it's a way I use this thing. So how do you actually do it? Okay, type checker, and then I do okay. What do I want to do? Oh, package ORM SRC database entity relations, and I want to show has Oh, I can import this. Oh, it's a part of something. Maybe that's part of. Oh, okay, it's part of entity. So I could do entity dot has many. Okay. Dot. This is first annotation of. No. It's exactly type. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, since I have the getters, we could have a lot of getters on the class. So I'm trying to use the type checker to see to find the exact getter that I should be focusing on using this type checker. So you give it the type that it should look for, and then you pass it a Dart type, which comes from the code the Dart code that has been analyzed. So I'm going to do for final getter in. I just want to do some quick prototyping to see what works, and I want to do is type code 2, and then we'll have the getter dot type. No, it's the return type that we want. How do we get the return type on the getter dot? Could I do something like element declaration? Let's go for declaration, and then we do I'm trying to find, like, I'm trying to get the return type. Ooh, good. Get the dot declaration. Okay, so we're getting this. I just need to know this, the return type. Let's see. Okay, type. Okay. Print. Getter. Getter name is type. Is type. Let's see. Okay, it's true. We found it. True. Okay, so we were able to find it. So what I'm going to do is find out as many getters will be equal to getter fields dot on where E, and then I want to do this. Get okay, so this is giving us has many. All the has many getters on the class would be in here. So let me print as many getters dot first. No, let's just print this. Ooh, time is running. We need to be wrapping up soon. But we're making some good progress, you know, because now we're able to get the has many getters that are inside this class. So okay, I have that. Okay. Ooh, sleep is calling. Sleep is calling. Okay, so now that I have my has many here, we are basically filtering all the gets, like the fields on the class, and then we are finding the getters that match, like that have this return type, has many. This one. Okay. And when we have that, basically what we do from here is just generate code. We just generate code. That's all. That's all we have to do. Okay, so what do I need to do? Okay, now to the code gen part. I am going to do before that I need to know what properties. Before that, I need to know what properties are available on. I'm coming. So we go to any user.articles, and then I want to be able to call .create on it. Has many, so I want to be able to call create on this. Okay. So I need to be able to probe the properties of article. You see? You see that? Okay. So if has many getters is not empty, then I want to do print as many getters dot first, and then I want to do I think let me do declaration that okay, there is a type here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get those generics that were passed. Oh, it's so much easy, you know, when you're building, I mean, client-facing things like, you know, mobile apps and web apps. But then the moment you start dabbling in, you know, you are getting closer to the programming language, like you are dealing with the tools directly, that's when it gets a little hot, you know. Like it requires a little bit more than, you know, just being able to know the language and producing some piece of code that works. Oh god. I'm trying to get this generics, this ones. Hopefully somebody watching just knows what I have to do, but oh god. You know, let me take this slowly first. And then I do my usual stuff. We use a bunch of print statements to see if we are on track. Okay, we have that. Okay, if I, let's see. If I do type dot elements, it's probably going to print the same thing. Exactly. But I guess this time it's just the type that we have. So I'm guessing we are somehow close. What is an alias? If this type is an instantiation of a type alias, information about the alias, otherwise return null. I don't think this is what we should be looking at. Type dot let's see. Has to be element dot. I think I was able to do this thing somewhere for the converters. Come in. Yeah, we created an extension and then we did this. Okay, where we generated the DB entity, we should have something there. Okay, process annotation. I found it. So if we are able to get the class element of that return type, then we can have the type arguments. Yes, that's exactly what I should be doing. Okay, so hopefully this type and element should give us a class element. Let us be. Hopefully that is a class element. I just have high hopes. That should be a class element. Because this is a class, you know. So I should get a class element. Oh god, it worked. It's a class element implementation. So I can do final has many class equal to, then I can do this dot first. Remember, we're just prototyping to see how we need to do this first before we dot type, and then I do dot element as class element, you see. Okay, so once I have this, I can do something like has many class dot let's see, do we have type parameters? Let's see what's type parameters. So return a list containing all the type parameters declared by this elements directly. This does not include type parameters that are declared by any enclosing elements. After reading all of this, I just feel dumb. Okay, there's no harm in trying. Let me try this. We're trying to get this things here. Okay, what did we see? Okay, we got parent extends entity parent. You could have just given us user and article. Oh god. Okay. Let's see. Type. Oh, this doesn't really have. Yeah, I did something like super type dot type arguments. You see, super type dot type arguments. when we go to relations here, if I do super type, that's going to give me this. Let me try that. We do super type dot type arguments. Okay, so we're getting parents and related model. No. This is not what we want. We want user and article. That's what we want. That's what we want, not parents and related model. No. What do I need to do here? Because I have a class element. What do I need to do? Could a secret be in augmented? Like augmented? Type parameters doesn't give me anything useful. Declaration. What is this? No, that's not what I'm looking for. Why can't I just get this directly from the class element? What is enclosing element? No documentation. What's an enclosing element? I have no freaking idea. Whew. Brains. The name. Let me see what I'm getting there. Interface type implementation. But I thought this just worked. Okay, element of type. Okay, the name. Wigetson has many. What is a declaration? What is a declaration? First dot. I'll give this a couple of 10 minutes. If you don't find anything, I'll have to figure this out and then we'll resume the stream later. Let's see. Hmm. The documentation is in the code, but I don't understand anything going on here. As many, I just need to know this. This is all I want to know. Let's see something. Let me remove that. Okay, so there is an issue. If in the case where I don't define, this return type, where I just leave it, like this, then that piece of code isn't covered. So I guess a much better way would be to check this instead of checking for fields with return type. But yeah, once we're able to figure this out, basically being able to get these types that were passed to the has-many class, we can be able to do this bit where we generate the extension function, which is going to be on the has-many because that's what we're currently dealing with. And then we want to be able to call create directly. So what that will look like is the piece of code we should be generating will look something like it's going to look something like user, and then this is going to be article, and this is going to be user and article. Okay, why am I having an error here? Says user doesn't conform to the bounds of, let me see, and as many. This would be article. Oh, no. We won't need this. So we will have user and then we will have article. Yeah, this. So when I go into my hello here, when I can see that create now requires title, which can be hello and then description, hello. So ideally, this is the code we want to end up with. If I want to create a new article for this user, means this article is going to be created and the owner ID is automatically going to be provided to it. That's exactly what we want to do, but we currently have a blocker that we want to be able to figure out these types so that we can use it in the code gen. And unfortunately, that looks to be taking like forever, which I'll figure out, and hopefully over the weekend we can fix this. If you're still watching my stream, thanks for watching, and I like to do things like this. If this is something that you like to enjoy, make sure you follow my accounts, especially on Twitter and LinkedIn and these other places, and we'll be seeing each other more. You get to watch me work on my ORM. Yeah. So thanks for watching, and peace out.